And the first, probably most exciting news I think we have is this new DW drum kit it is in a class of its own, in my opinion. They have completely taken all of our conceptions of what an electric drum kit is, and they just threw it out the door. They threw it out the window. They're like, whoever the product guys at DW are like, let's look at what all of our competitors are doing and just throw it out the window, and let's just like reinvent something that's like completely innovative and new. Next, we want to show you guys this really cool trick you can implement with your Blackmagic cameras, the ones that specifically have the high frame rate recording function. It's like the poor man's way of doing an instant slow-mo replay that you see in a sports broadcast or something like that. You can now control a mixing console remotely, like from anywhere, just using a basic internet connection. Welcome back to the Churchfront show. This is the monthly show that we're putting here on YouTube, as well as our podcast, which is also on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, so you can subscribe there. But this show is really about highlighting the cool new things that are coming out within the worship and production world, this type of stuff that we nerd out about here at Churchfront. So we thought it'd be fun to do that for you guys in the community, just to keep you up to speed with the latest worship and production news. So we are covering a lot of fun things today. We've got this incredible new electric drum kit. I think it's going to be an amazing tool for churches. We got a cool trick you can do with your Blackmagic cameras. This amazing technology by Presonus to be able to mix and monitor remotely. The new Avantis console, the new Tascam console, and more. You're just going to have to watch the whole episode to take advantage of the great content that we have for you guys today and the cool, exciting things that you should know about. As always, check out worshipministryschool.com or churchfront.com to learn more about working with our team and to join our accelerator program. Adam and Luke especially are traveling around to clients around the country. I'm actually going to be meeting you, Adam, here pretty soon in Arkansas to do a camera install. So that'll be a lot of fun. Video to come. But yeah, if you guys want to work with our team, go check it out. Just go to churchfront.com or Worship Ministry School. You'll find the same resources in both places. And we look forward to working with you. Without further ado, let's dive into today's content. And the first, probably most exciting news I think we have is this new DW drum kit that is, it is in a class of its own, in my opinion. They have completely taken all of our conceptions of what an electric drum kit is, and they just threw it out the door. They threw it out the window. They're like, whoever the product guys at DW are like, let's look at what all of our competitors are doing and just throw it out the window, and let's just like reinvent something that's like completely innovative and new. If you guys want a great in-depth video of this, go check out the one that Sweetwater did. It's like a half-hour video that walks you through all the specific details of it, but we can highlight some of these things for you here. So I know for me, Adam, the first thing that jumps out is you look at the kit, which there's a picture of it right there in their studio. It does not look like an electric drum kit, which for a few reasons. And we've seen the new electric triggers coming out, whether it's by Roland or Pearl or Ethno or whatever drum manufacturer. They're starting to make the shells look like real shells, which is great. But the thing about these DW shells on this electric kit is that they are actually real acoustic shells that they're using with this kit. And so that's the first thing that stands out. It's like it looks like a real kit, but it's because it is a real kit.
The first thing that stood out was these photos. I was like, oh, these promo photos, they make it look all clean and cool without plugging all the cables in.
Where are the cables? Where are the cables, right? And that's the other mind-blowing thing about it. There are no cables. There's just no cables at all. So it's like, this is the way they have it set up is, so you got these real acoustic shells, and you can take off the mesh heads of the shells. Inside you see the triggering system, which is kind of similar to other, triggering systems you might see on the market. But they put this proprietary wireless technology in there where I think you do have these little batteries in each of the triggers, and they use very little power to be able to send a signal, because they're not sending audio. The important thing to understand is they're sending a teeny tiny little radio signal which takes very little power, to the triggering hub, which then talks to the software and the computer to trigger the actual audio. So that's how they're able to be super innovative with this and get rid of the cables. Just this week at the South Fellowship electric drum kit we had, I'm like, man, this is such a mess of cables and it looks so ugly and it's such a headache. So I was blown away to see, like, okay, they're able to do wireless without battery issues. Like, the software lets you know when they are running low on power. And when you're not using them, they just shut off pretty much. Like they're like instant on when you start triggering them. And there's no latency because, again, it's like a very tiny, I don't know if it's a MIDI note or whatever it is. There's just no latency in making that communication possible. Yeah, so the setup is so clean. So you get a laptop. It's going to be a decent newer laptop that can run the DW software that has all the sounds. Theoretically, though, this should still show up as like a device for any other drum triggering devices or software out there. I believe, actually, don't quote me on that, but look into it more. But I believe you can use this like a triggering, tool like any other drum triggers out there. And the cymbals, those are also really innovative. We use the field cymbals at South that have that metallic feel to them. They're actually like real cymbals with electronic triggering added to them. Looks like DW just like came out with their own version of that. Because that's I can't stand that. I'm not a drummer, but hitting rubber cymbals, it just drives me crazy if I had to play drums.
Yep.
The other thing is, the software is compatible with any audio interface out there. So I think the audio interface that DW has that you can get with the kit, I don't know if it shows it on this page somewhere. It is, right there, the RTAP audio processor. That's just a small little interface I think they make, but you only get left, right, out. So this is a good reason to get, a nice beefy audio interface. Maybe that iConnectivity one that we saw a couple of weeks back that we talked about it, the one rack one. I can't remember if it had 8 outputs. Maybe you need more. Or wouldn't it be compatible especially if you're using the software on your computer? Couldn't you just use like Dante Virtual Sound Card, and then you could have plenty of outputs to send to front of house?
That would be cool.
Really, really impressed. And then these things, you can switch you can take the mesh heads off. You can put real heads onto it. You can remove like the trigger really easily too. So then you have an acoustic kit. What's not to love about that? I mean, I think it's incredible solution by DW. I cannot wait to try one of these. I'm not a drummer, but this makes me want to go and spend $12,000 on a drum kit. It's so nice.
Yeah, these are actual shells and lugs. And so you just take the lugs off and you pop a real head on, tighten it down. And then it's like a really nice acoustic kit.
Yep. Yeah, props to DW for the innovation here. And like I said, go check out the video that they did with Sweetwater. Because I think they do a really good job, and Nick at Sweetwater obviously shows you all the different, things that it can do, how it sounds. It does sound amazing. The samples, from what I heard, sounded great. So props to DW for a really great product. And for churches, of course, this is a great tool because drums can be such a headache in a lot of house of worship environments where you have a small stage, you don't have acoustic treatment in the room, you're trying to control stage volume. We actually made a video about this a couple weeks ago. But at the same time, you want to have that big drum set sound, right? That you hear on a lot of worship albums because it just sounds amazing. So this is tempting. I'm going to see maybe at Rock Harbor Church, I could get a loaner set that we could try out or something like that. It'd be fun.
We got the price here. The 5-piece starts at $9,000. So
yep.
What would you say, like, the shells of a decent kit would maybe be $2,000, $2,500?
Yeah, it is a DW Performer. I think that's the name of the model. So it's like I want to say it's their mid-range-ish model. Yeah, about $3,000 it looks like for Performance series. That's with...
And that's without cymbals, I bet. So then you add on 1,000 cymbals, so you're at 4,000. And then you add, if you get a drum shield, what's that, like $2,000?
Yeah. Drum shield, and microphones, good microphones. I mean, when you add it all up, like it is a good value. I know people are going to like, I could see you guys in the comments already, like, oh my gosh, $9,000 for an electric drum kit. It's like, yes, but this, like what they're doing with this, the technology and the fact you're actually getting a real kit, like to me, that is incredible value to be able to get the same control of sound to be able to send it to front of house. I think it looks like great value. So, and we're not even I'm not a DW dealer. I don't even think we can get these drum sets yet. But I should look into it because I'm a big fan of this.
Yeah. See, and this comes with the shells, cymbals, and the hardware. So probably maybe everything but the interface and the software.
Yeah. Is that the 9K bundle?
This is the 75. Come on.
8 or 9K. Yeah. Something like that. It's on Sweetwater too. They got a bunch of bundles on Sweetwater you can check out. But totally worth looking into. I'll look them up here as well. They've got, yeah, I'm seeing a Sweetwater bundle for 11K. I'm seeing one for 9,200 because it looks like they have different shell packs, right? They've got 5-piece. Is there a 4-piece? Yeah, they've got a 4-piece version for $7,400. Yeah, that's pretty incredible. Before we continue on with the video, a quick word from our sponsor, the Worship Ministry School Accelerator Program. You may not know this, but in addition to all the YouTube content we're creating here at Churchfront, we also partner with local church worship and production ministries to help them hit their ministry goals. Over the past 4 years, we've worked personally with hundreds of worship ministries around the globe. We've helped churches navigate upgrading their worship tech, building better systems to grow their team of volunteers, as well as address any knowledge or skill gaps required for modern day worship ministry. When you join the Accelerator program, you get access to our entire library of online, on-demand courses, and you get unlimited access to our team of Churchfront coaches. To learn more about joining the program, click the link below this video to apply and schedule your free strategy session today. Now let's get back to the video. Up next, we want to show you guys this really cool trick you could implement with your Blackmagic cameras, the ones that specifically have the high frame rate recording function. So shout out to AJ Guptill and the Churchtown and Media Techs Facebook group. He posted this cool video with this trick that they're using to get this slow-mo effect. So go ahead and play it, Adam, and I'll kind of navigate through, maybe make sure it's muted and stuff. So this is a live stream. They're using Blackmagic cameras. And you're seeing the live feed from the camera here. They switch to another angle. Meanwhile, that cam op on the first camera plays back the video he just captured in slow-mo. And they switch back to this on the switcher here. So that's how you get that epic shot. Like, not real time, but it's like a few seconds afterwards. So it creates this really cool transition moment between the different baptisms that they have running. So yeah. I thought that was super creative. I mean, you found that I think you posted that in the Slack, Adam.
Yep. Yeah, just super creative way to, highlight this moment. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's like the poor man's way of doing an instant slow-mo replay that you see in a sports broadcast or something like that. Yep. Oh, look at that. Look at that descent going in for the baptism. Oh, they came back up. There's a flag on the play or something like that. Oh man.
Some audio overlays.
Let's review that baptism. Did they really dunk him all the way under? So good job, AJ. I love it when we see these like really cool innovations within the Facebook group with using things probably not the way they were intended to be used, but hey, it works great anyways.
Great work.
This is some really cool tech for churches, and we're actually going to be releasing a more comprehensive video on how this all works, but it's called Presonus Metro. It's this feature that's now included with the Series 3 consoles at Presonus. You just got to make sure you're running all the latest firmware and such, and you can now control a mixing console remotely, like from anywhere, just using a basic internet connection, which, you know, people are like, oh, what big deal, right? I could just hop on TeamViewer and log on to the desktop app, Universal Control, and do it. But the cooler thing is not only is this seamless experience of controlling through Universal Control, so you're not dealing with TeamViewer or some other app like that, but you can also monitor that mix in anywhere from 80 milliseconds to 120 milliseconds of latency. So effectively feels like you are in the same building, in the same room, and the fidelity of the audio is just really high quality, so you can actually hear the detail of the mix. Adam, you could speak to that, because when we tested this the other day, I was playing and singing, you know, on a mic and a guitar into my Presonus console here in Colorado. You were in Tennessee. What was it like?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of like I was there, and you probably experienced it too when I was like, hey, I'm gonna adjust your preamp, or I'm going to adjust the EQ on your guitar, or how much. I even like adjusted how much reverb you were getting into your in-ear mix, and I
Yep.
felt like the results were pretty quick. Like, hey, is that good? And yep, and so.
Well,
You know,
and the other thing that's cool is the talkback. So that you were talking into Universal Control. It was using your audio interface, whatever mic you want, goes through Universal Control, the desktop app, over the internet into the mixing console in the actual mixing console's talkback channel.
Yep.
Mind blowing. So I don't want to give it all away. Like, we'll show you guys the full video soon, but this Churchfront show episode's going to be out sooner. So if you have Presonus consoles, definitely check this out. This is going to be a game changer for troubleshooting, broadcast mixes. If you want to have someone separately mixing broadcasts in a different, it could be a different room at your church, or it could be from their house, right? Incredible capability with this setup.
Yeah, I'll say it is a little bit more of a roundabout way, but all the time we do help students do the same thing on different types of consoles. It just takes a lot more software and routing, and it's a little bit more complicated. But we just had a student that was like, hey, can you help me dial in our Avantis at our front of house setup? And, you know, through lots of software, we'll make it happen. But the fact that Presonus has put it into, like, baked it into their control software, and the low latency is just awesome.
Yeah, and hopefully they're just the first mover here, and I hope all the other manufacturers do the same thing, because once people kind of get a glimpse of this, I think most people just don't really ever think about the concept. This is one of those things you just don't really think is that possible, kind of like the wireless electric drums we were talking about earlier, but then someone comes up with the innovative solution for it, and it really changes the industry. So great work to the team at Presonus. Adam, the problem with doing this show is it gives me so many ideas on things I want to spend a lot of money on. So I have to restrain myself between that DW drum kit and then this Avantis Solo mixing console. I love how compact and cute it is, but with like all the same power, right? It's essentially just cutting the normal Avantis in half.
Yep. I'm trying to count. Is it 10? No, it'd be 12 faders
12.
on here.
Yeah, it says it right there on the description. 12 faders, and the awesome touch screen. I've spent a little bit of time on Avantis, but I really like the ergonomics of it. The touch screen's really great. You have 2 sound cards you can put in the back of it. You have all the capability for all the stage boxes. You still get 64 channels. Again, I probably need to know more. Alan and Heath is sending one of these so I can test it out. But from my understanding, it's all the same like power and capability, just a smaller footprint.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what it seems like. It's the same screen, you know, a few less soft keys, half the faders, but I guess half the analog in I/O on the back.
Yep.
But,
Which yes. Again, if you're using when you have Dante capability and all that stuff built in, it's like, how much I/O do you really need on the back of that console? So this will be great for, you know, definitely more portable church environments. Maybe, especially if you're a church that has a bigger budget to launch like a multi-site campus or something, and you want to mirror the type of mixing experience that you might have if you have an Avantis in your main campus, that could be really cool. You're just,
But
you
put
know,
a touch screen with the Avantis software up, like right above this, right? Like
oh,
you could just put a touch screen right here, or you could get a
yeah,
larger iPad and put the iPad right here, and then boom, you've got. If you want to keep it on a certain layer with all of your vocals or effects or something like that, you could have all of the
yeah,
faders you want. Um, if you wanted to have extra faders available, but in a really small form factor.
totally. Yeah. Yeah. I would say like, I probably appreciate having more faders a little bit more. I feel like the standard 24 faders is like what I prefer having when I'm mixing a full band and stuff like that. But you're right. You could totally make do with that. Like, I think for me, I'd have like maybe my vocalists who I'm constantly kind of writing faders for on the physical tactile faders. And then maybe my instrumentalists, I'd put some of those individual ones to the side on the iPad or some other place I can mix them. Another great new mixing console that is worth checking out is this Tascam Sonicview. And once again, have a more thorough video coming out very soon here on the channel. Hopefully by December at the latest. It's all shot, just gonna be edited. But the Sonicview 24 or the 16, this was a newer kind of contender for the digital mixing space back in earlier this year. And what's cool, they've got Dante capability. And I can just say from my first impressions, hands-on with the console for probably 3 or 4 hours now, I really enjoy it. Like, I got used to the experience pretty quickly. It's very intuitive to navigate. It's a 40-channel mixing console, and they are mono channels. And so if you have like, 2 mono signals left, right, you got to pair them into 2 channels, link them on the board. One of the things I would prefer was different about it. Wish it was similar to like the SQ by Allen and Heath or something, where you can pair 2 inputs to 1 channel. But it has Dante built into it, which is really great. So Dante stage boxes could work with it. And as I was thinking through like a good hypothetical setup for churches, it would be cool to pair this Tascam console with the Aviom Mix 320 combo you have here with the Aviom D400, which is kind of the brain. You would feed up to 32 channels into the D400, and then from there, you could then mix 16 mono or stereo channels into the little Aviom A320 personal mixers. And I think that could make a really cool, Dante mixing experience. The other thing about the Tascam that's cool, it has a really good DSP in it. They really, Tascam's known for being a kind of studio recording type brand. Like, that's their thing. I think the first Tascam device I used back in the day was like one of the multi-track recorders for our garage band. And of course it has all that stuff built into it too. But yeah, totally flexible mixing console. Sometimes I wonder too, Adam, I think now I feel like we've used so many mixing consoles that I really I feel like I could just make do with whatever mixing console someone throws at me. And I enjoy it because I know how to I know how to configure it in a way that I'm going to like it. Right. Because for the most part, these consoles are like, it's all pretty much one and the same concept.
Yep. Gain,
but yeah.
EQ, compression, effects, grouping, routing. It's all the same stuff. It's just laid out in a different way. One thing I'm looking at it too online. One thing I noticed was that the Dante is like literally built in to the back of the console. Like, there's no IO card that you have to buy and put in. It's just default built in.
Yep. Just like that. And you have another spot for Tascam IO cards. So I think they have a MADI one. I don't think I know. They have a multi-track recording one for an SD card. I don't know if I don't think they have a Waves one, but maybe someday they'd come out with one. They're right here. These are all the different expansion cards that are available so far. Yeah, there's no Waves card yet. But yeah, I mean, having a couple expansion card options there, like definitely makes it it's this console that even price wise, I think it's around 7 or 8. So, you know, it could be a pretty good contender, kind of going up against the Avantis. But maybe like somewhere between the Wing and the Avantis. Maybe that's where I think I would put it.
Yeah. And it does have pretty good, decent, 32 channels local IO, or
Yep.
30 by 16 maybe. So
sorry, it is 24. So they've got 24 of the preamps on the 24 XP. That's what the 24 stands for, is the preamps, and I believe 24 faders. On the front, plus your main fader here, and then on the back, it is. I think it's 24 as well. Can't zoom in far enough here to see. Come on, we can do it.
I can see 24, 60.
Okay. Yep. For 7K is the price tag on that. So, yeah, just totally worth looking into. And again, at this point, I'm like, it's hard to be there. There's different things I love about all the different brands out there, whether it's Waves, whether it's Allen and Heath, whether it's this Tascam, and it's just getting to a point where a lot of these consoles can accomplish a lot of the same core functions really well, and it's kind of personal preference on which ones you want to go with. Maybe I need what's the one brand? Soundcraft. I feel like I need to spend more time with the Soundcraft console. That's the one that's like, that brand's been around for a while, and like every time we've encountered one with a client, we're just like, this is such a pain of a console to deal with. But
yeah, a lot. I don't know if it's just the specific consoles that we got. Like they've built new ones, but whenever I look at like the Soundcraft Performer is the thing that most people have, and I go to look at the spec sheets or the manuals, it's just, man, why is to navigate? But like maybe their newest ones are better, like the VI 7000 I see here. I mean, 120
totally.
That's ridiculous, and it's got Dante.
These are actually, it's the S. Yeah, I feel like it's the SI impact is what I've seen a lot. Yeah.
SI.
So I don't know. It'd be interesting to check out maybe the VIs at some point. 96 channels. I mean, those are pretty large format consoles. So, and maybe that's it. I feel like a lot where for churches, the manufacturers, I think that have done it well, have they found a good middle ground between their flagship big consoles and like these little budget ones. It's like no, like at a church, we don't want the little budget one with barely any capability. We don't need the big flagship console because that's overkill. Like, give us the Goldilocks console, right? And that's where I think a Wing comes in, SQ comes in, the Avantis comes in, the Wave setup comes in. Like those are all within that range.
Yeah, even the Digico S9, S10, whatever the kind of middle ground one is a good option too. S10, S20.
Yeah, I would love to. S21, I think, is a Digico. Right, I would love to check that one out sometime. So, hint,
we had a
Digico.
Yeah, we had a student in Arizona that had one, so I was able to help them dial it in. Nice. S21. Yep. Yeah, so we actually got to go to, Jake and I went to GearFest a couple years ago now, and Jake almost bought some UA pedals for his electric rig. The guitarist at my church has a UA amp emulator, but this is a speaker emulator. So this would come after your Helix or your other UA, like the Dream or the what other amp modelers, but this is specifically for you to do some IRs, and you get to move around, pick different cabs, you can move around the microphones, you can pick different drivers that go in the cabinet digitally. They had this device. The
compatible app. Well, and then I like the compatible app because I don't think the other pedals have that type of capability where you can just like scroll through on your phone the IRs and the microphones and the modelers and all that stuff. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. But just the detail that you can get with these things, and maybe especially for a smaller model, amp modeler that you wouldn't have as much processing power. You could take the processing power off of amp modeling and using IRs, and then focus that processing power on like the reverb or delays or like the other time-based effects that take up a lot of CPU, and then offload that onto something like this that just does the the cab emulation. Or maybe you got multiple guitarists at your church that one uses an amp, one comes straight out of their Helix or their Quad Cortex or whatever. You could kind of have everyone come into one of these and set one of the 6 preamp or presets, and then you'd have the same thing plugged in all the time. You wouldn't have to worry about an amp load taking device. Just be a small pedal. So lots of cool ways that you could utilize this.
Yeah, it was cool seeing the photo there. That's with a Quad Cortex right next to it, right?
Yeah,
I think it was down there. Yeah. Yeah, man, I love those I think those little pedals sound great. I still, who knows? Christmas is around the corner, so I might ask Santa Claus at Sweetwater to put some guitar stuff under the tree, but I just don't. Then actually that'll incentivize me to volunteer to play electric guitar more at whatever church I'm at. So that would be fun. And what?
And you'll have to keep your chops up.
Yeah. Well, it's fun. I had a blast. It was like 2 months ago. We didn't have an electric guitarist, and I was like, Aaron, I'll do it. And he's like, oh, sure. And he scheduled me, and I was like, oh man, playing electric guitar is like, it's really fun. Now I see why people do this and get into it so much.
Yeah, I loved it at our conference when I got to lead from electric. That was a good time.
Yeah. All right, guys. If you're going to do some camera budget proposals for your church, I know some of you guys really want to get those red cameras in your live stream set up. Me personally, I was trying to get my pastor to sign off on a red Raptor camera. But then he saw this reel by Drake Kelch, which I kind of left this little comment here on this reel. Apparently other people appreciated that. Follow me on Instagram for my hot takes and funny comments on some of these things. But he made this cool rig because this was inspired by the Apple event, where the whole event recently was shot on an iPhone. And Drake's like, oh, here's how they would have done that. So he like shows like this cool camera rig, built, with an iPhone, and it's got the cage, it's using the Blackmagic app. And it's just kind of cool. It's a good inspiration, even though it's probably like a $5,000 rig or something like that, and maybe not that much, but it's a few $1,000s he's got like a tear deck on there. It can get pricey pretty quickly, the focus demand and all that. But it's to show you guys, like, technology has come such a long way that it's incredible. Like I do have the iPhone 15 Pro Max, whatever they're calling these things these days. And the quality of the camera is just, it's insane. And yeah, I just think it's a good reminder that it's not, now we're at the point where I feel like the tools are mattering kind of less and less. What matters more is the folks who are behind the tools and pulling it all together.
Yeah, for sure. It's I think you've said this before, the ability to make and create technology at a high quality keeps like getting, faster and better, and the price is coming down. So the value is really in the skill set at this point.
Yep. But then if you compare skill set with a red camera, then it's going to look really good. So yeah. I just encourage you, max out your skill sets with the tool you have. Then you can consider like upgrading to fancier stuff.
And like that guy I was talking about earlier, one of our students, making the best of what he had. He's got an Avantis, but his actual broadcast setup, he only had 2 camcorders for his video. And so through Zoom, we made sure like, okay, his camcorders, the ISO, the shutter speed, all of the settings on his camera and his light positioning was as good as possible. And so we made his camcorders look great. So you don't always need the latest, greatest to make the most of what you have and make improvements.
Yep, totally. Well, I think that wraps up today's show. So much exciting tech for you guys. Hopefully this was valuable for you. Maybe you discovered a great resource to implement in your ministry. Like I said, check out the resources down below in the description of this video or the podcast to reach out to our team if you want to work with us. We would love to work with you. Check out worshipministryschool.com or churchfront.com. And don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you next time.